Raylia sat at the edge of the balcony, watching the skyships pass over the city. The wind was cold, but she didn't move. She couldn't. Her legs had never worked. From birth, they were just. They're useless. Long and beautiful, yes, but silent, heavy, dead. For most of her life, Raylia had lived in silence. People pitied her, but only from a distance. She belonged to a noble family, so they gave her food, a room, even a personal nurse. But no one asked her what she wanted. No one expected her to be anything more than decoration. She had tried everything: ancient medicine, alien healers, electric shocks, even forbidden rituals from old texts. But nothing worked. Her legs never moved. Her body refused to obey. After a while, her heart began to refuse. She had once dreamed of dancing. Now she only dreamed of falling asleep and not waking up. But today was different. A new group of guests had arrived from Earth humans, the latest allies in the councils. Eyes. Raylia didn't care. Aliens came and went all the time. They showed off, took resources, made big promises. Then they left. Nothing changed for her. Still, she was curious. From her balcony, she saw the humans stepping off their ship, tall, thin, strange in posture. They looked soft, but confident. One of them stopped and looked up, right at her. Raylia froze. The man was staring at her, but not with pity, not with shame, just calm curiosity. Their eyes locked. She expected him to look away. He didn't. The moment passed, but something in her chest fluttered. She didn't understand why. That night, she stayed awake longer than usual. The next day, a soft knock came at her chamber door. Her nurse opened it. "I don't want visitors," Raylia said quickly. But the nurse turned, eyes wide. It's one of the humans." Raylia frowned. "Tell him wait," said a quiet male voice. "Please, just give me 1 minute." Against her usual instinct, Raylia nodded once. The door opened. The same man she saw yesterday stepped in. He wore simple clothes, a small tool bag on his side, and had dark, thoughtful eyes. He didn't walk with authority, but with purpose. "I'm Cole," he said. "Engineer. I noticed your chair." "I knew." Raylia raised an eyebrow. "You came to examine my wheelchair?" "I came," he said, stepping closer, "because I think I can help." She laughed a dry, bitter sound. "You're not the first to say that." "No," he agreed. "But maybe I'll be the last." She stared at him. Why would a human care about a broken alien girl? He didn't smile. "Because on Earth, people like you don't get forgotten. We build things for them. We help them walk. I've done it before." She looked away. Her fingers gripped the edge of the metal seat. "My legs have never worked, not once." "I don't need your legs to have worked before," he said softly. "I just need your mind to say yes, now." His words hung in the air like a secret. Raylia looked at him again. This time, not with disbelief, but with the tiniest spark of hope. Later that night, she couldn't sleep. No one had looked at her like that in years. Not with sympathy, but with belief. She wheeled herself to the mirror. She stared at her reflection. A woman with long silver hair, sharp violet eyes, and legs that had never taken a single step. But inside, a voice whispered something new. What if he's right? What if I don't have to be the girl who never stood anymore? Back on the engineering deck of the ship, Cole placed a small chip onto the table. He began sketching designs in frames, energy boosters, balance stabilizers. They weren't just robotic legs, they were freedom. And he knew if she said yes, everything was about to change. Raylia didn't speak for a long time. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of her wheelchair's resting motors. Cole sat across from her, hands folded, waiting with patience that felt unnatural. Most people rushed to speak, to explain, to convince. He didn't. He simply sat and let the silence speak first. At last, Raylia lifted her eyes. You're serious? Cole nodded once. I've built working exosuits before, for humans and for a reptilian species, once. Your anatomy is different, but not impossible. Raylia narrowed her eyes. Everyone says not impossible right before they leave. I'm not leaving, Cole said. The words felt strange in her ears. She couldn't remember the last time someone said that. She folded her arms, partly for comfort, partly to shield herself. You don't know me. You don't know my body. You don't even know my planet's tech systems. I learn fast, Cole said, and I'm not here to study you. I'm here to build with you. Raylia blinked. With me, you're not a test subject. You're a partner. He leaned forward slightly. I can't design your legs without your help. That stunned her more than any promise. The next day, he came back. She didn't tell him to leave. He brought small sketches, basic leg frames, flexible joints, energy-conductive plates. She stared at them, silent at first. Then slowly, something shifted inside her like an old gear trying to turn again. You base this on a human exosuit, she said. Yes, Cole replied. But it needs adjustments. Okay, your legs are longer. Your center of balance is higher. Also, you carry weight differently. Your bones are lighter than humans. You notice that just by looking. Cole shrugged. It's what I do. She leaned forward and tapped one corner of the diagram. This part needs shock dampening. Otherwise, my spine will break if I fall. He smiled. That's what I needed to hear. Raylia blinked. What? You just designed with me. She didn't answer, but her cheeks warmed. They began meeting. Every afternoon, at first, she only pointed out mistakes in his drawings. Then, she offered changes. Within days, she was drawing alongside him, her hands moving faster than they had in years. Her nurse stared, stunned, as Raylia once stayed up past midnight, scribbling ideas, comparing power sources, asking questions. You're alive again, the nurse whispered one night. I was never dead, Raylia replied. Just waiting. But hope was a dangerous thing on her world. Whispers had already started. Why is she spending time with a human? She's wasting council resources. Don't let that broken girl embarrass the family. Raylia's cousin, Tovin, a rising noble, approached her with a tight smile. This is foolish, he said. He's using you. You'll be humiliated when this fails. Raylia looked him straight in the eye. Then let me fail. At least I'll do it standing. He didn't smile again. Cole didn't know about the whispers. Or maybe he did, but didn't care. One evening, he brought her something new, a shiny black ring, smooth and cool. What is it? Raylia asked. Neural relay anchor, Cole said. When linked to the legs, it will pick up your muscle signals, even if they're weak. She stared, but I've never had signal strength in my legs. You may not feel it, he said, but your brain still tries. That's enough for the tech to translate. Even a whisper from your nerves can become a command. Raylia swallowed. Hard? This could work. Cole looked into her eyes. Only if you're ready. She was quiet. Then, with a slow breath, she held out her hand. I'm ready. He slipped the relay onto her finger, gently. For the first time in her life, Raylia didn't feel like a patient. She felt like a warrior preparing for battle. Cole didn't treat her like she was broken. He treated her like she was becoming something more. That night, when Raylia wheeled herself to the balcony again, she didn't feel stuck. She looked at the sky ships and imagined walking through them, her own steps echoing on the deck. No one lifting her, no one pushing her. Her own legs, her own power. She didn't know how long the journey would take, but for the first time, she knew it had finally begun. Relia rolled into the human's engineering bay and froze in place. The walls were covered in screens, blueprints, and glowing parts. Small drones buzzed quietly overhead. Everything was strange, unfamiliar, but there was a warmth to the space. It wasn't cold and sterile like the medical rooms she'd grown up in. This wasn't a lab. It was a workshop. A place where things were built with hands, not just machines. A place where dreams had weight. She spotted Cole standing at a long metal table. Goggles over his eyes, carefully welding a tiny core unit. Sparks flew like fireflies as he finished a seam. When he looked up and saw her, he smiled, not as a doctor, not as a pitying guest, but as a teammate. "I'm glad you came." Relia hesitated. "I didn't want to." Cole tilted his head. "And yet, you're here." "I'm curious," she admitted. "That's all." "That's enough," he said. He stepped aside and pulled a long display panel toward her. It flickered on. Relia's eyes widened. 2 legs tall, slender, sleek appeared on the screen. Not human, not alien. Something in between. Elegant, strong, and perfectly shaped for her unique body. But that wasn't what made her heart race. At the bottom of the design, in the corner of the screen, was a name. Project Relia. She blinked. "You named it after me." Cole nodded. "Because it's not just a project. It's yours. Every wire, every screw, every signal pulsates, all made with you in mind." Relia looked at him. Her voice, usually so calm, shook slightly. "No one's ever made something for me before." "Not really." Cole didn't say anything for a moment. Then, softly, he replied, "Then let's make history." The following days were a blur of movement and focus. Relia, who had once stared at walls for hours, was now sketching energy routes, adjusting balance algorithms, and arguing with Cole over actuator sensitivity. "I told you," she said one afternoon, frowning, "this joint needs triple redundant locking. My planet's gravity shifts sometimes. One slip, and I crash." Cole grinned. "I love it when you talk like an engineer." She rolled her eyes, but there was a faint blush on her cheeks. They argued. They worked late, they laughed, sometimes without realizing it. And slowly, the legs began to take form, not just on screen, but in reality. The frame was made of a rare hybrid metal, lightweight, but strong. The joints were soft-coated with shock-dampening gel. Cole added a magnetic stabilizer that adjusted mid-step. Relia designed a power core backup that ran off ambient heat just in case. Each piece came together like a puzzle, designed by 2 hearts beating toward the same goal. But not everyone was cheering for them. Tovin, Relia's cousin, kept a close eye. "She spends every day with that off-worlder," he muttered to a court aide. "People whisper she's planning to rise. I won't allow it." "She's still disabled," the aide said. "What could she do?" "She's not disabled. She's motivated," Tovin growled. "And that's more dangerous." Back in the workshop, Relia reached toward the robotic frame. It was finished, tall and metallic. The legs hung suspended in a support rack. Cables led from the feet to a terminal, feeding power into the joints. Each toe flexed when commanded. The hips adjusted to her weight. The legs were perfect, almost too perfect. Cole stepped beside her. "You ready?" Relia looked up. Her heart pounded in her chest. She had never stood, not once, not even as a baby. Part of her still believed she'd fall. She wasn't meant to walk. That this was all a dream. But then she remembered the name on the blueprint. The way he said, "with you, not for you." The nights she stayed, up designing, the pain, the hope. She nodded slowly. "Let's do it." They strapped her in gently. First, the neural anchors, connecting her body to the system. Then the brace locks, holding her securely. Then Cole's voice, soft in her ear. Don't think about walking. Just think about standing. Relia took a breath, then another dot, and then thought. The response was instant. A quiet hum of power. A soft click from the hips. And for the first time in her life, Relia felt pressure. In her feet, not pain, not numbness, but weight. Her body rose slowly. The world tilted. Her view changed. The workshop floor fell beneath her. She was standing. She was standing. Cole didn't speak. He just smiled as wide, proud, a little misty. Raya looked at her own reflection in the steel wall. She saw a woman tall, fierce, and finally, upright. "I'm standing," she whispered, and then she laughed aloud, wild, almost shocked sound. "I'm standing." The lights above flickered slightly from the power spike. Relia didn't care. Her smile was brighter than any lamp. Relia's first step wasn't graceful. It wasn't smooth, or silent, or like the stories she'd once imagined while lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. It was awkward, it was heavy, and it hurt. A sharp jolt ran through her spine as the robotic leg moved forward. Her body wasn't used to shifting weight. Her muscles weren't trained. Her nerves unused for a lifetime. Panicked, her knees buckled, and she collapsed, straight into Cole's arms. "I can't," she gasped, clutching her chest, shaking. "I can't. You can," he said, firmly, but not unkindly, but not all at once. Her breathing was fast, uneven. She looked down at her trembling legs. The metal frames looked strong, but her body felt weak, broken, wrong. Cole helped her back into the chair. She didn't speak the rest of the day. The next morning, she didn't come to the lab. Cole waited and waited. He could have gone to her room, but he didn't. He knew what she was feeling. Defeat, shame, doubt. He also knew she had to fight it. Herself, late that night, the door finally opened. Relia wheeled in, her eyes swollen, hair uncombed. "I screamed at my nurse," she said quietly, or I told her I never wanted to try again. Cole said nothing. "But I'm here," she added, lifting her eyes. Cole smiled. "Then, let's try again." This time, she didn't fall. But she didn't walk either. The suit trembled under her weight. Her muscles twitched. The relay signals kept lagging. Every movement was like trying to push a mountain up hills low, clunky, exhausting. She sweated through her clothes. She cried without tears. She screamed in frustration. I was a fool to hope. She shouted. Cole stood nearby, arms crossed, face calm. "Then be a fool," he said. "But don't stop." They trained every day. 1 hour turned into 2. 2 turned into 5. Relia's body fought back. Her back ached, her hips bruised. Her skin burned from harness rub. Her hands bled from grabbing metal bars too tightly. But Cole never let her fall alone, and she never stopped getting up. By the end of the first week, she could stand for 10 minutes. By the end of the second week, she took 5 steps. By the end of the third, she could walk across the room, shaky, slow, but upright. Every night, she collapsed into bed, aching from head to toe. And every morning, she got up again. The other engineers began watching from the corners. Some took notes. Some clapped silently when she walked a straight line. But some whispered behind her back, "She's pushing too hard. It's just a stunt. It won't." Last Relia heard them. She didn't answer. Her steps answered for her. One day, Cole gave her a small device. "What is this?" she asked. "A balance core for walking on unstable terrain." Relia narrowed her eyes. "You want me to walk?" "Outside, not yet," he grinned. "But someday." She looked out the window. Someday. The word felt big, heavy, hopeful, that night. Tovin visited her in secret. He closed the door behind him and leaned against the wall, arms folded. "You've made quite a show," he said coldly. "I've made progress." She replied, "You've made a mistake," he snapped. "You're embarrassing the family. You're making people think weakness can be overcome. You'll create chaos." Ralia stood, slowly, deliberately. Her metal legs hissed softly as they lifted her tall. Tovin's face twitched. "You call this weakness?" She said. "You'll fall," he warned. "I've already fallen," she whispered. "That's how I learned to rise." Back in the lab, Cole upgraded the software. Ralia helped him code new feedback systems. She could now walk on slanted floors, adjust to bumps, even jog slowly across a small training field. "Want to test on sand?" Cole asked one day. Ralia grinned. "Make it quicksand. Let's go." The pain never fully left her, her body still protested. Some nights she cried into her pillow, exhausted. But now, pain didn't mean failure. It meant growth. It meant she was using muscles no one thought she'd ever use. It meant she was alive, fully, finally. One evening, she walked into the way. She walked into the common dining hall, alone, no chair, no escort, no warning. Every head turned. Every voice fell silent. She didn't look left or right. She simply walked to the far table and sat down like any other guest. No one said a word, but that silence. It was louder than applause. Later, Cole met her in the hallway. "You scared them," he said. "Good," she replied. "Let them be scared of what comes next." Ralia had never felt more alive. Every day brought new challenges. Yes, but also new victories. She could walk, she could turn. She could move on her own. Her legs clicked and hummed with grace now, adapting faster with each upgrade Cole provided. In the mirror, she no longer saw the girl in the chair. She saw a woman becoming unstoppable, but not everyone cheered for her success. Tovin watched from a balcony above the courtyard as Ralia walked with Cole, laughing softly, her hand brushing the railing for balance. Oh, she didn't look weak. She didn't look like a burden. She looked powerful, and that terrified him. His position as the future family head was already shaky. Ralia had once been no threat, quiet, immobile, forgettable. But now, nobles whispered her name again. Visors asked questions. And worse, young disabled aliens across the region had begun sending her messages. "You give me hope. Can I get legs like yours? Will humans help us too?" Tovin slammed his fist into the railing. He had to stop this. Now, that night, as Ralia returned to her quarters, she found her room ransacked, papers torn, cables sliced. "I saw guards running. What happened?" Ralia held up a shattered component. "Someone broke in." Cole's expression darkened. "Sabotage." She nodded slowly. "They're scared of what I represent." Cole crouched beside the broken relay and examined the cuts. This wasn't just fear. This was precision. Someone knows tech. Ralia looked toward the hall. Tovin. The next day, she walked straight into the High Council chamber. The room fell quiet. She stood and added, before the 12 elders. "I want permission to speak publicly at next week's Unity Festival," she said. The elders shifted. "You intend to show off your invention?" One asked. "No," she said. "I intend to show my people that we are not limited by what we are born with, and if others try what you did and fail, then let them try again," she answered. "Like I did." A long silence followed. Then the elder in the center nodded. Permission granted. Tovin, standing in the shadows behind the council, clenched his jaw. Later that evening, in a dim-lit room under the palace archives, Tovin met with two former Engineersmen once rejected for dangerous designs. You still want to make something that turns people off forever. He asked. The taller one smirked. You want her legs to stop working? No, Tovin said. I want them to stop working on stage. Meanwhile, Relia trained harder. Cole added balance stabilizers that could resist sudden gusts of wind and unexpected pressure shifts. The neural interface was now fused deeper, responding to even the smallest shift in her thoughts. Your legs can run now, he said. One evening she blinked. Run? T nodded. You've earned it. The night before the Unity Festival, Relia stood on the palace rooftop, looking out at the crowd already forming in the valley below. They won't just see a speech, she whispered. They'll see a future. Cole joined her, holding a small case. He opened it slowly. Inside, the final upgraded core for her legs. Sleek, glowing, powerful. He held it out. One last piece. She smiled and took it. Let's make history. But below the city, a silent drone floated into the lab where her legs had once been built. It scanned the designs. Then it hacked into one of the backups, implanting a hidden command. A signal that, when triggered, would shut her legs down for 60 seconds. Just long enough for her to fall hard in front of the world. The morning of the festival arrived. Relia stepped onto the wide floating stage, her long coat rippling in the breeze. Her head held high. The metallic feet beneath her echoed with pride. Thousands watched from the ground. Many had never walked. Many never thought they could. Cole stood off stage, nervous but hopeful. Relia raised her hand. The crowd hushed. I was born unable to walk, she said. And for many years, I believed that meant I would never stand tall. She looked down at her legs. But someone showed me that belief isn't always truth. That weakness doesn't mean worthlessness. I didn't need to be fixed. I needed to be heard. Applause began to build. She took a step forward, and her legs froze. Just like that. Locked dead. Wait. The crowd gasped. Leah staggered. Her foot slipped. She began to fall, but just before she hit the stage, a hidden booster in her heel kicked. In Cole's secret emergency. Failsafe. Her balance core restarted. She caught herself and stood again. The crowd erupted. Tovin's face turned pale as death. Relia slowly turned her head to look directly into the camera drone flying above. I may fall again, she said, but I will always rise. The sun rose high above the Capitol Tower as nobles, engineers, soldiers, and council leaders gathered for the Grand Convergence, formal event where decisions were shaped. Alliances formed and tradition held, tightly like a sacred book. The room was golden, polished, and full of whispers. The nobles wore flowing robes lined with gems. The air buzzed with polite tension. But today, the tension was deeper, because today, the girl they once called the Broken Noble had been invited to speak. Some expected a speech. Others expected a failure. No one expected what was about to happen. Tovin stood near the front row, trying to hide the sweat on his brow. His plan had failed. Relia hadn't just survived the sabotage, she'd turned it into a symbol of strength. And now, she had the council's attention. He leaned over to one of his allies. She won't last under pressure. She'd trip, or stutter, or freeze. But even his own voice sounded hollow. The lights dimmed slightly. Trumpets sounded. The grand doors began to open, and from the shadows beyond, Relia walked in. Not wheeled, walked. Her stride was slow, deliberate. Metal feet clicked softly on the marble floor. Her posture was tall, her eyes forward, her back unshaken by 1,000 watching faces. The entire hall fell silent. You could hear nothing but her steps, click, Click, click. Cole stood near the rear, barely breathing. He knew this moment was more than a speech. It was a warning, a statement, and a beginning. Rylea reached the center of the hall and stopped. She looked out at the crowd, the very people who had once called her cursed, worthless, untouchable. She touched the chest of her suit, where the human neural relay glowed gently beneath the fabric. "I was born unable to walk," she said, her voice clear and calm. "For 10 years, I was treated like an empty seat in a room full of standing people." Some nobles shifted uncomfortably. She went on. "Not long ago, a human came to this world. He didn't offer pity. He didn't offer empty promises. He offered tools and the belief that I could do more." She paused. "Now I can walk. Not because I was repaired, but because I was believed in." Murmurs spread, but she wasn't done. "I'm not here to celebrate myself," she continued. "I'm here because there are thousands like me. People with voices locked in still bodies. People who are seen, but never truly heard." She turned her head toward the council elders. "We can build more than cities. We can build hope. We can merge human technology with our own to lift those left behind." Her tone grew stronger. "I am the first. I will not be the last." Tovin took a step forward. "This is dangerous. You want to give power to the weak." Rylea looked at him and smiled. "I was weak once," she said, "till I was given a chance." The crowd didn't boo. They didn't laugh. They stood, one by one, in silence. Out of respect, even the elders rose slowly to their feet. Tovin stepped back, his face burning. After the speech, reporters swarmed the corridors. News spread faster than light. Disabled noble walks before council. Human-engineered miracle stuns ruling class. Rylea sparks new movement. By nightfall, hundreds of disabled citizens had submitted applications to the Joint Tech Alliance. Cole's communication line nearly shut down from overload. Messages poured in. "Can we apply for legs? Is the tech safe? How long before my son can stand?" Back in her room, Rylea sat not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Cole walked in, holding a datapad. "You've gone viral," he said. She chuckled. "I don't know what that means." "It means," he said, grinning, "they're talking about you on 17 planets." She blinked. 17. "By tomorrow, more." He nodded. Rylea looked down at her legs, gleaming softly in the low light. "I never imagined this." "I did," Cole said quietly. She looked at him, touched. "Thank you," she whispered. He shook his head. "You're the one who walked." Meanwhile, far away in the slums of the outer district, a little alien girl in a worn-down wheelchair stared at a glowing screen. She watched Rylea walk across the council chamber again and again, then turned to her mother and said softly, "Maybe I can walk too." The clinic was small, barely finished, and the walls still smelled of new metal and fresh paint. But Rylea stood in the center like it was the proudest palace in the galaxy. Outside, crowd waited in the courtyard, young, old, poor, noble, alien, and even a few humans. Some sat in floating chairs. Others leaned on sticks. One child crawled on her hands, refusing to be carried. Inside, Cole placed the last tool on the tray beside the operating bed. "You ready?" he asked. Rylea turned to him, dressed in simple robes and her signature dark gray walking frame humming softly around her legs. "I've never been more ready." He smiled. "Then let's open the doors." Weeks had passed since the day she walked into the grand hall, and the world hadn't been the same since. She didn't expect praise. She didn't want fame, but what she received was far more. Powerful belief. Disabled children sent her drawings. Parents from war-torn zones begged for her help. Engineers requested access to the leg blueprints. Even rival governments reached out. wanting walking clinics in their colonies. What had started as one woman's struggle had become a movement. Tovin had vanished from the capital, stripped of half his influence and whispered about in corners of the palace. No formal charges were laid, but everyone knew. And no one listened to him anymore. He had power. Ralia had people. The clinic opened with no ceremony. No big lights. Just her and Cole side by side. Their message was simple. If you have a will, we will help build the way. The first patient was a child barely 6 cycles old. Her legs had been lost in a mining collapse. She didn't cry when they strapped her into the test frame, but she held Ralea's hand tightly. "Will I fall?" she whispered. Ralea smiled. "Yes, but you'll get up again. That's how we start." The girl looked up at her. "Like you did." Ralea nodded. "Exactly like I did." By the end of the day, 4 children had stood. One walked, one cried when she took 2 steps and ran straight into her father's arms. And outside, the crowd kept growing. Cole sat beside her that evening, watching the sunset from the clinic roof. "You realize what you've done?" he asked. Ralia laughed softly. "Not really." "You've changed an entire species." "No," she said. "I just showed them what they already had inside." He looked at her, admiration in his eyes. "Still, you gave them hope." She turned to him. "You gave it to me first." Weeks passed, then months. The clinic expanded. More engineers joined. Some alien, some human, some from other planets entirely. They brought different ideas: arm enhancements, spine boosters, even mental stabilizers for those with neural injuries. Ralia insisted on testing every upgrade herself before approving. If it wasn't safe for her, it wasn't safe for anyone. She walked every hallway, sat with every child, told every parent, "You are not broken. You are becoming." One day, the girl from the mining collapse returned. She wore her own set of legs, now painted purple with tiny starlight patterns. "Miss Ralia," she said shyly, "there's someone I want you to meet." Behind her stood another girl, thinner, quieter, missing one arm and both feet. The first girl held her friend's hand proudly. "She thinks she's broken. But I told her, you'll help her too." Ralia knelt and looked the new girl in the eyes. "What's your name?" "Sani." "Sani." Ralia said gently. "You ready to learn how to fly?" The girl blinked. "I thought we were just going to walk." Ralia smiled wide. "Walking is just the beginning." Later that evening, she stood again on her favorite balcony, but this time, she wasn't trapped in a chair. She stood tall. Alive, she looked up at the stars and thought back to the day Cole first knocked on her door. A stranger. A human, she smiled. "I never said thank you," she whispered aloud behind her. Cole walked up, sipping something hot. "You just did." They stood in silence, shoulder to shoulder, watching nightfall far beyond their planet. In deep space, a child with robotic legs sprinted down a corridor on a human ship. A crew member yelled, "Slow down." The child laughed and shouted, "Ralia says we don't slow down for anyone." She had once been the girl who never stood. Now, she was the reason others would never sit again in silence.